We are live, I think. Now, I did have a curious, my microphone died like 10 minutes ago. I had a little panic right before we started here. So please let me know if I sound like I'm supposed to sound or if I sound like I usually sound. Let me know if the microphone is working okay or if it's too loud or anything like that. I feel like it should be alright, but I had a little panic and had to change some things, so it might be a little different. Okay. Sound good. Awesome. That's what I needed to know. Perfect. Sweet. I changed up my camera face cam angle today as a test to see if I like this better. I think I will. I should. Alright, I haven't even written anything on my piece of paper. Alright, thank you very much, everybody, for joining for week 3 of our Tuesday night late night lives. It's so funny, it's still super bright out. If anybody's familiar with, I guess, summers in Canada, other places in the world are similar, but even more so than in Vancouver, where I grew up. In the summer, it is bright until like 10 or 11 at night. Vancouver, not quite as much, but it's 9 o'clock and it is still daylight outside, which is awesome. But it definitely doesn't feel like night when I look out my window. Got my tea, as always, green tea with honey. It's trippy. It definitely takes some getting used to the late nights. And if you go farther north, like my dad, for a little bit was working in the Yukon, and the Yukon, no, in Yellowknife, but northern Canada, and up there at like during some times of the year, midnight, 1 in the morning, it's still daytime. Certain times of the year, so you'll hear like skateboarding and stuff out your window at 1 or 2 in the morning, and it's bright out. So it definitely takes some getting used to. Right? It would be almost impossible to send your kids to bed when it's bright outside. You need really good blackout curtains on their windows. So my game plan for today, last week I did the questions that I asked on Instagram, or that I posted on Instagram, and people asked, and I answered some of them, and I did that again this week, and I got a lot of really good answers, or questions, sorry. But I had a really dope, relaxing day, and unfortunately, I'm not feeling like delving into some of the topics and really deep into the stuff that was asked in those questions. So they're not just gone, I'm going to take those questions and I'm going to postpone them for a later live. But tonight, I'm feeling very relaxed. I know I potentially don't see it because I'm talking really fast, but I'm quite tired's the wrong word, but I had a nice day walking out in the sun, and I'm drained. So I'm in the mood to kind of sit and just write. So I feel like this is going to be the most similar to the old Instagram lives that I did, the random ones, than any of the 3 or 2 other ones on YouTube that we've done yet. It's just going to be a chill writing session. I'm always down for conversations and questions and stuff like that during the chat. I'll probably end up touching on a few things that people asked. But I just kind of feel like writing. I haven't sat down to write, other than I had to do 2 thank you letters to customers. But other than that, I haven't sat down and really practiced or done any writing since last Tuesday. It's been a busy week, went by really quick. So I feel like just writing. So that's what I'm gonna do. I hope that's okay with you guys. Swirl my ink here. White on black again today. How is everybody doing? How was your week? I know some people it's morning, some people it's night. Everybody's different times in here. New music playlist today. This music is based on what YouTube considers their pop music in their audio library. If you like the music, that's good. Cool. It's a little more upbeat. I haven't listened on a live session to a lot of this music yet, so we're gonna see. If ever you decide that you're not a fan, let me know and I'll change it. We could put in some chill jazz, or I got a few playlists set up that I can switch around to. Also, you'll notice you can see my forearm. This is something that I can change. Watch, this will be fun. Watch. On the computer, I can do this. Oh, face cam. Or this. Oh, movement writing, elbow cam. I can change it on the fly. Right now I have it in elbow mode just because I was testing that. I want to see if that leaves you guys enough space or if it's taking up too much room on the corner of the video. Please let me know. I figured this could be helpful for some people who are working on their movement writing to actually see my elbow and forearm, what it's doing. I was testing this specifically for the movement writing online class that I'm working on, testing it out so that I can get sort of the best experience for everybody. And I figured I could implement it into my late night lives as well. I mean, you could always dance and write if this music makes you want to dance. It is rather upbeat, that is true. Maybe I'll listen to this for a while and then I'll chill it out. I also have a classical playlist that we haven't listened to in the Late Night Live series yet. I have a lot of royalty-free music on my computer, but most of it requires to be in an actual YouTube video. I have to post in the description the artist and all of that, and I unfortunately haven't taken the time to sort of copy and paste all the artists in all of my royalty-free music's paste information. So I'm not set up to do it for my lives yet. For individual videos, it's easy because it's usually just one song. But for the lives, I play it's like 20 songs in some of them. So I haven't done the work yet. Just starting off with some ovals. And I have to apologize because I'm pretty certain I got this wrong last week, and it is something that I get wrong all of the time. I say it in all my classes because I get it backwards. The difference between direct and indirect ovals. Direct ovals are counterclockwise. Indirect ovals are clockwise. I'm pretty certain I said that right. I've gotten it wrong and fixed it so many times that my brain hardly even knows anymore. It's like in tap dancing. There's a stamp and a stomp. One you put weight on, the other you don't. A stamp, it stays on the ground, a stomp comes off the ground. And when I'm teaching, they are used interchangeably as the exact same thing, and I get called out by professional dancers, advanced dancers, 7-year-olds all the time on getting those words wrong. So I apologize. When I'm in the swing of things, I often call indirect and direct ovals wrong. But direct is what I'm doing right now. They are counterclockwise ovals. Or what is it? Anti-clockwise for my European folks in the room. I think they say anti-clockwise. That is a very good question. Is the old-fashioned knuckle-up hand position really important for ornamental? Um, it depends. It's not really a yes or no answer, unfortunately. To do the best ornamental penmanship, it is my opinion that you would be doing yourself a service to adopt the traditional grip. And the main reason for that, and it's with the shading, because you're on your fingers. This was the paper, and I'm on my little finger and second finger. When I do my shades, this all presses down. I like to engage my shades from my arm, so my whole forearm goes down. And if I'm using a modern grip with my hand to the side, because that's all resting, there's no weight there, but nothing's resting there. You can still go down, but you have a lot less room you have a lot less vertical travel in there to add in a shade. So, I mean, there are incredible ornamental penmen that use side hand, a more modern grip. So I can't say that it's 100% necessary for ornamental penmanship to use a traditional grip. The big thing, if you're going to use a modern grip, is to make sure that you have no pressure whatsoever. The hand has to just float over the page so that you're not pressing down at all. If you were to be writing like that, if let's say I was using this pen exactly as it is right now, and was going to be doing a more modern grip, I would turn my paper like so. Because if you notice the rotation of the flange, if I'm using a modern grip, my nib is right on the slant line of my ovals there. But once I turn to a new grip, my nib is much more up and down now, right? So I have to turn my paper and write at that angle. But I can do the same, like here I'll do some writing. I don't do movement writing with a modern grip, but for drills and whatnot, the same thing I was just doing is possible. Because the driving movement is the same for your travel. It's all coming from your upper arm, so it doesn't matter as much what your hands are doing. But things do come into play with your flange adjustment, your paper angle, and then for me, the ability to have vertical travel for my shades. So I personally feel much more free. Ooh, one more thing, actually. I'll make use of my elbow cam. Notice, if I'm using, so we all know, we've all heard it before, movement writing, you're using the flexiness of this muscle right here. That sits on the table, and it's basically stretching in a circle like that. That looks really weird. So when my elbow is on the edge of my table, that's where the movement's coming down. Now, I'm currently using a traditional grip. I'm using a traditional grip with my arm rotated, so I have the fleshiest part of that muscle, the squishiest, flexiest part, is down. So it's what's in contact with the table. When I turn my hand this way, it inevitably turns my forearm as well. So then rather than being on the fleshiest part, I'm kind of on like the angle. Not right on the side where the bone is, but I'm on that angle. So if I'm there, I have slightly less, I don't have a good flexible forearm squishy muscle to stretch from. I hope that makes sense. So that's another big reason, if you're using forearm movement, to think about adopting a traditional grip. It's not necessary, but I do think it makes things a lot easier. It makes things feel a lot more natural. I wear a posture brace and things when I'm typing at the computer or drawing because I'm always hunched over. But when I do ornamental penmanship, my posture is magically and surprisingly like perfect. My shoulders are down, everything's relaxed because that's the way to get the best writing. So this forearm is there's no rotation at all. Everything is completely at rest for me. So my writing can be as natural and flowy as possible. So, long answer to your question, no, it's not 100% necessary to use a vintage grip, but if you really want to get nice ornamental penmanship, movement and whatnot, it is my personal recommendation to go that route, to make that change. And the change doesn't have to go through all your writing. If you're going to write slow, you go back to a modern grip. Anytime I'm designing or writing slow, I use a modern grip. I only use traditional grip for ornamental penmanship and business penmanship when I do them. So, there's your answer. If I didn't answer everything precisely enough, please let me know and I can elaborate any points. What's wrong with counterclockwise and clockwise, right? What gets me is because counterclockwise is indirect. So indirect in my brain feels like it should be indirect counterclockwise, direct clockwise. And then when I'm in the heat of the moment talking, they get all jumbled up. So we can use counterclockwise and clockwise. I always default to using indirect because that's what the books say. I just get it wrong. I was actually this week, I was watching one of Kahlo's videos. She had a live, I think it was a live, and from Kahlo Make Art, and she was talking about indirect. And when she said it, I was like, oh, I definitely did that backwards in my live last night. That was last Wednesday. I watched her video. It's like, yeah, I did that wrong. So I was meaning to make an Instagram post sort of apologizing for my many mess ups with that one, but this will be it. This is my apology for always screwing up indirect ovals. I'm stuck on a modern grip and it's taking a lot of experimentation to get it right. Fozzie, why don't you try a traditional grip? I know some people do experience pain or uncomfort when they do a traditional grip, and I think that stems, and I could be wrong here because I wasn't one of them, but I think if your forearm is used to resting in a modern position, again, this is fun, making use of my forearm cam. If your forearm is used to resting in this position and you're trying to rotate just the wrist without rotating this, there could be like, you'll get some weird tension in the wrist area, but this whole thing goes, yep, and just like this, you'll notice even my bicep, everything is rotating for this to be down. So it's relaxed. There's no like trying to twist something unnaturally. Like it's possible to hold your forearm this way and move your wrist back and forth. That's the essence of like waving and stuff in dance. You use those little tricks and mimes use them as well. But you don't need to isolate muscle rotation and stuff. If you're going from a modern grip, this whole thing, like you take this all as one big thing and it rotates this way. So you'll see my elbow too does come out a little bit during that rotation, and then that is my comfortable position for writing. Oh, I've never gone that in depth chatting about that before. The rotation, I'm gonna remember that. Normally in my classes, I don't focus too much on the grip because it is a lot of work and personal dedication to change one's grip. So I normally teach the writing and the methods, and then I always tell my students if they want to change, contact me if they're having trouble, because that's a personal choice. If you decide you want to make that change, you're endeavoring to make it, and it's work. And I don't want to force anybody to do that work if it's not something that they're super keen on. I'm fat, so my whole arm is squishy. Yeah, James, you are uh, the exact opposite of fat, my friend. Sorry to break it to you. Backwards and forwards, that also works. I like it. Those 5 minutes were the most enlightening, were more enlightening than months of reading the old Zaner Bloser manuals. Well, thank you very much. It's interesting. The tidbits of what I think I get at in my random blabbering rants, all that information does exist in the old books. It's just bits and pieces from different articles, and you have to kind of imagine what they were thinking, because unfortunately we don't have videos and stuff of them writing, so you kind of put it all together. Microwave. Courtney, we got a dancer in the room, and I'm just going to elaborate on what I was saying on how it's waves. That's literally the secret. If you see dancers do waves, like waves like that, the secret of making the elbow wave, because we don't have joints in here, is rotating the forearm without rotating the hand. Like if you put your hand on a table, everybody can rotate their elbow. It's no problem. If my arm was straight. Let me back up. Everybody can do this. That's the key to a good arm wave. But then when you raise your hand, it's this. So you have to make those muscles work in opposite so the hand stays flat. And then that's the secret to getting a nice into your central arm wave. Dance knowledge. Late night lives. Another sip of tea. Because obviously I don't have enough energy tonight. That is so good. Guys, earlier today, so I met up with a friend, my friend Jeff, who used to live in Japan, and he studied traditional tea ceremonies when he was there, and he's now back in Vancouver, and he's still training it here. I went to his house today, and he has in his home set up a tatami matted, beautiful traditional looking tea room, essentially, and he ran a full, like, traditional formal tea ceremony for me, and it was absolutely magical and so cool. Those of you who don't know, I used to live in Japan and really geek out and love traditional Japanese culture and whatnot, and it was just so cool. Part of my long awesome day that I had today. That's how it started. I got up, went to his place, and did that, and it was awesome. So cool. You can never have enough energy, Fozzie. To be honest though, this could be tired, this could be high energy, this is just me all the time. Pretty much. Okay, what do we got here? What up, Nicola? Welcome. Yeah, no videos of execution, but... Yes, it is traditionally all of those styles, ornamental penmanship, Spencerian, business writing, were all done rather rapidly. They are very calming. I'm always amazed at how exact they are. Just like, as a dancer, in choreography and moments, I had so many questions for him when it was done. Like when he poured out the tea, after he rinsed out the bowl, when I gave it back to him and he poured it out, on average, when he pours it out a few times during the ceremony, and it would drip 4 times into I guess, like the waste bowl. And I asked him, I was like, is the 4 times, does that just happen to be when it's normally empty? Or do you actually count 4 times? What is it? My analyzing brain was going in on everything that he's doing. He's also a professional dancer. So when it comes to steps and meticulously repeating things perfectly, dancers are kind of really good at that. But it was just such a really cool experience. Okay, writing. Haven't done much writing yet today. Did some ovals. You're very welcome, Nicola. I still owe you. I know it's been a week, and I said in last week's video that I would send you those practice sheets, and I didn't, and I'm sorry. I recently have been going through my stacks of practice sheets, and they've all just ended up in a box, so I'll go through them again. I'll never be. That's fine. Don't let me off the hook. Just know that the hook might have to stretch. I'll stay on the hook, but the hook, unfortunately, when I'm hooked, they have to stretch a little bit because I'm bad at doing things on a schedule. Yes. All right. Let's do some indirect. See, I totally almost said direct. It's ridiculous. They're just totally messed up in my brain. Zoom in here again. Get you guys focused up. There we go. I had actually a really nice public unintentional dance session a couple days ago. I was waiting at the bus stop, and there was a window behind me. And as you know, when you look into a window at a certain time of day and you're outside and the building you're looking into is closed and the lights are off, you basically get a mirror. And while I was waiting for the bus, had my headphones in, and I had a nice little ignoring the rest of the world walking by me, popping session. It was quite fun. I haven't had a impromptu dance session other than the ones that happen right there when I'm cutting leather and stuff and a good song comes on the radio. I haven't had one while I'm out and about in quite a while. Joys of being a dancer. Yeah, James, when's your next live session? I should rope James into doing a split screen live session with me here like this. He could join my late night lives. He could be my first guest. I know he's at home getting probably mad at me right now for saying that. But now that I've said it, maybe I have to make it happen. Did you guys see my emoji that I posted at 3 o'clock in the morning yesterday? Or I guess this morning, technically. Funniest emoji or emoticon ever. Thank you for the upvote, Nicola. I think I'm going to talk to James privately after this and see if we can make it happen. Half of it is going to be me. That's alright. What do we want to work on today? I'm going to practice for a challenge that I've been wanting to start. I think I talked about it on one of my Instagram lives or maybe a YouTube live. I honestly can't remember. This is a personal challenge. This isn't one, not like Sig Sling and Sunday where I really want people to join in. This is one that people are crazy enough and want to join in. By all means do, but this is a personal challenge for me to train my offhand signature writing techniques. And that challenge is I want to go through the entire alphabet connecting the letters. As an example, if we start with A, we have AA. And then from there, We have AB. Moving on. To AC. Yay! People are posting my emoticon. I'm gonna call it my emoticon because it's fun. Because for those of you who, if you've never seen me before, I mean, you would have never seen it. My right eyebrow is high all of the time. Whenever I get excited, that's just natural. To the point where if I completely relax, I have glasses so people can't see it, my right eyebrow naturally sits higher than my left all of the time now because I've done it so much. I'm off balance. So I like that little emoji. Is there any two capital connection that I think is particularly awkward, and do I have a favorite one? That's kind of one of the things that this challenge is going to be good for. I guarantee there are a lot of two-letter combinations that I've just never done. I can't think of any specifically that have given me issues in the past. Most of the time when I'm connecting a lot of capitals, I'm not doing it on the fly and with movement. I'm doing more so pencil designing for like a foiled signature or something like that. So I can usually find ways to make them work. But there are lots of letters that don't really like going into other letters. Like, for example, T's and F's. T's and F's are great coming after a letter, but you can't really connect them if it's a T to an A. There's not a real connection there other than connecting from the crossbar or having the capital stem continue and going into something else. So that's kind of why I want to do this challenge, just to see if I can. It's sort of a challenge in expanding, or an exercise in expanding my own creativity. If I can put myself in situations that I have to get creative, but I'm forcing myself to do it with movement. And so with my rapid signature writing speed, that's the challenge. So it'll be the plan is a weekly post or a weekly challenge, and then every week will be a new letter. So it'll take a long time to get through the entire thing, and I'm assuming I'll be busy for certain weeks if I'm allowed to travel ever again. But yeah, that's the plan that I really want to do. I haven't put it into effect yet, just because it's a big undertaking. Once I start, I don't want to quit. I want to be able to see it through. Whoopsies. Where'd that come from? Whoops. Like you can see with these ones so far, I've used all the same connective stroke, which in my brain is screaming at me, Mike, that's boring! You're doing the same thing over and over again. You already know how to do that. Try something else. So that's kind of what that's the goal of this exercise, to put my brain in a point where I get sick of myself for doing the same thing over and over again. So for example, for the D, we'll do AD a few more times, and we'll experiment with other ways we can connect A and D. I mean, you can also do an A with an entry stroke. And then you could do something, for example, will this work? Sure. Wait, how would that finish? I could finish there, potentially. I don't use that style of D very often, but that's an option. Or, let's do one more similar to the first AD we did, but we'll just see if we can think of another way to connect them. We could just make that entry stroke larger. Which I think ends up looking a little bit better. So that's the point of the exercise anyways. And you also asked, do I have a favorite one? Basically, my favorite is any connection that starts with a indirect, or that starts with a letter that finishes with an indirect. No, gosh, backwards. Let me get this right. Focus. My favorite connected letters are any letter that finishes with a direct horizontal oval going into any letter that starts with a standard capital stem. Because, and the A is one of them. The A ends with a direct oval. What's going on, Monica? We have the A going, that's ending with a horizontal direct oval. Going into, we can add either a small loop or a large loop. We could bring this all the way around, like the D, and then come down into a standard stem. So anything that can be connected that way, and there's lots of letters that can do that. Those are my favorite connections. You'll have I never really did the math. 650 combinations of two-letter connections. That is a lot. I mean, a lot of them are going to be the same, that's sort of the point. If I do the same thing too much, I know that my brain will get sick of it, and that'll force me to try to do something new. For anybody who hasn't known me for a long time, I like exercises that push my creativity. There's maybe only one or two people in the chat right now who would remember many years ago, I started a creativity expansion exercise where every night before bed, I set my camera up to automatically snap 4 pictures. I turned all the lights off in my room, and I turned the camera to have a flash. So it was wait, how did I do it? No, I had a lamp at the camera. So only my face and what I was holding or using was lit up, and everything in the background was dark. And it would just shoot 4. So there was not enough time to plan, so I would just hit 4 random poses, 4 funny faces, 4 props that are on my desk and things like that every night. And you'll find when you do that every night, after you've done it for honestly like a week or two, you start to run out of ideas of like clever things to put into these videos. And I shot, I think I did 4 months of them every night, shooting the 4 pictures. And by the end, yeah, you have to get really creative, but you have to do it really quick. It's really easy to think, oh, I'm gonna put this together and take this picture, but the pictures have to happen. The poses they happen super fast. So it was a really fun exercise in hitting a roadblock in creativity to then force yourself to get over it, and then ideally, when you finish, you're more creative. I don't know if I am or not, but they're fun little challenges. 676. That's crazy. How about a W? I mean, I love W's. Personally. But a W going into letters, like that's potentially one of the letters that finish with a indirect oval, with an indirect exit stroke, like the W, for example. We'll just do one here. If I start with just a standard stem, my W, if I'm finishing in an indirect oval, it can be very challenging to get into another letter. Things I've used in the past are things like this. Going into a stem, I've used that little up and around into a compound curve. Or many of the old penmen, you would see them do something. No, I don't know if I've seen them do that. That might be an extreme example. Probably not that. Don't do that. It looks weird. These are things that I think I've seen until I do them, and then I think, no, I've definitely not seen that. That's just an idea in my brain. I'm gonna do another one that I think I've seen. One that I don't use very often. That is something they do. Little change of directions, little loops, and things like that in there. But ones that start, or opening letters that finish in a indirect oval, are more challenging. For me, anyways. I mean, yeah, if you go into variations and stuff, there is no end. But that's kind of the point of the exercise. Like if, for example, if I get bored of doing the A the way I do it, I could use other variations of the A as well. Or if I find that there's no clean way to do the A into a specific letter or this style of A, then my brain then knows, okay, if I ever run into that, I know that it's smarter if I use a different variation of the A. So it's just a personal educational process, basically. Fun. And then there's different things that you can do that are essentially the same, but make slight differences. We're gonna continue with we'll go with the example of the A and the D that I have right here. Like here I added a little loop, but if I wanted to make that look slightly different, but essentially be the same, let me do this in my brain and make sure it works. Who cares if it works? I'm gonna try it anyways. You could do something like this, which is essentially the same, but gives me a slightly different look. So instead of having a loop, I went up to a stop, and I could add a little bit of weight there if I wanted to. I wouldn't have to, going up. So I stop, and then down into the D. So that's another thing that's, again, very similar in movement and style. I just, instead of looping this, you can loop it little, you can loop it big, or you can not loop it at all. And they create three very different looking, but similar in training. Like if you can do one, you can do all three. It's the same movement that's sort of creating all of them. It just teaches your brain to be a little bit more flexible. What's going on, Devin? Devin is one of my best friends from high school, who I still chat to on a daily basis, which is kind of fun. He does not do penmanship or dance, but his kids dance, which is always very fun. All right, that's enough with A, D, A, B, C, D, E, A, E. A-E. And actually, maybe I can take a vote here. You guys can give me your opinion. I haven't decided if I want the challenge, if I want to do it sort of like I'm doing it now, where I just press record and what happens, happens, or if I want to like plan it out and post a finished A through Z post, and then a finished B through Z, and a finished C through Z, or if each one is like a video that then turns into a picture of each one, mistakes and all sort of included into it. I'm interested or curious to see what you guys would prefer. I might not do it, but I'm curious nonetheless. Ooh, I'm gonna try something fun that I've never done before. This is the whole point of this experiment. Sweet. We're gonna do an A. Now instead of connecting into the F, I'm going to write the F, stem stroke, like that, and then this is the part I've never done before that might not work. I'm going to finish the A. That's kind of neat, and something I've never even thought of before. Yeah, that's very true. Edited videos are much more palatable for people watching. Some people like my random blabbering. I've come to find out that many don't. That's neat. I don't know that it's like the world's best, but who cares about best? It's something that's interesting. That's sick AF. You get a slow clap for that one, Monica. Well done. And thank you. Spontaneous too. So maybe what I'll do, yeah, whatever. I'll do it spontaneous. And then maybe I might not even post the video. Maybe I'll just make undecided. Because it might end up just being a photo. There might not be videos at all. It might just be a photo of this week's A through Z. So there might not even be any spontaneous mic videos. It might just end up with some spontaneous connections in the photo that you'll look at it and be like, ooh, Mike got playful and that did not work. Which is a possibility. It happens all the time when I design signatures. Things don't always work. Case in point, the second W I did here tonight. Things that work in my brain don't always work on the paper like I'd want them to. I always find connecting M instead. Do you mean, sorry Monica, do you mean the M first or the M second? I don't like connecting M second. I find when the M is like the second initial, it's complicated. Because most of the letters that I use, or on average you end up with like the A. You finish with a direct oval, horizontal oval, and going from a direct horizontal oval exit stroke into an indirect stem oval like the M uses, you get this, I mean, the standard sort of way of doing it. I'll stick with A here. You get these ones. That's been my go-to, and that goes for W. I mean, that any letter that finishes or that starts with a indirect stem oval like that. One that I've sort of started using quite a bit is, and I like it, it's used some in vintage work, but not as much as I feel like it could have been. I use these ones. I use that hard stop there. Or potentially, I know James likes there to be a itty bitty loop in that little spot. Which that's one that I use in my signature. Going from, I do the G first, G into the M, and then the M goes straight into the W. And that's the one I use, the little loop in the middle. The little loop is there because James convinced me to put it there. It was a hard stop, but James convinced me to make it be a little loop, and the little loop happens right on the inside of the G. But I use that one quite a bit for connecting lots of letters now. It's found its way into a lot of my design signatures and whatnot as well. But if you'll notice, as I'm doing this, we're focusing a lot on the connections, the variations, keeping the ideas clever. But at the end of the day, every single connection and combination has an A. So I am training one specific thing repeated over and over again, that A stroke. So in theory, by the end of week 1, I will have practiced the A lots of times, and I will hopefully be more comfortable with A when it's finished. So it's sort of like 2 birds with 1 stone. You get better at one specific letter, and you also work on clever connections and stuff like that. Hey Colby, welcome. We are playing around this evening. I'm gonna swirl my ink here. Yet again, I need to get a magnetic ink stirrer. Or rather, I have one. I need magnetic stir bars, which I'm waiting for in the mail currently. If it didn't work, could be a separate post. That's very true. What I was thinking is throughout the week would be sort of potentially practice and experimenting with different ideas, and then near the end of the week, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's when I create the page of A through Z, all perfect, or all sort of how I like them and potentially different and whatnot. But I don't know if I'll always have time to put in that many intense practice and training creative sessions. Thank you very much, Vincent. I'm looking forward to it. I'm nervous to start it though, because once I start it, I have to keep going, and it is a long challenge. It's months in the making, many months in the making. They're handy. Well, here, I haven't posted this. Some people have seen it because I've sent it privately, but here's the first unveiling. I don't have stir bar, so I can't show you it working at the moment. This is a prototype. This is my magnetic stirrer. I wasn't a huge fan of a lot of the ones on the market, so I thought about it and ordered the pieces I would need to make my own. So this is it. This is the power. It's off, and then it clicks on, and it speeds up, and it slows down. It is USB powered, and if I have to access the electronics, the base plate comes off, but it is magnets. There's 4 magnets that hold the base plate on. So essentially my ink jars they would sit right like that on them. So it fits my desk a little bit better. Like I said, this is a prototype. If the internals work, my plan is to potentially carve something out of a chunk of wood, instead of, this is a box that I built out of, honestly, a little wood shelf that I bought at the dollar store. I got it home, ripped it apart, and cut pieces of wood to make this little thing. So no real fancy tools or anything required. But yeah, I can't show you it working because I'm waiting on my stir bars, but fun invention, quarantine project. A car would work. I thought about making a shoe. It's kind of that shape as well. Silly little things. AG. So it's essentially pretty easy to go into that G. What if I wanted to use the other G? A boot? Yep. This is more of a show and tell live session than I had intended it to be, but I've never used this. This was a random, potentially even accidental eBay purchase a long time ago. There's a shoe. Inkwell. You can see the sock is flopped over on top, but it's an inkwell inside. Old vintage shoe inkwell, but it's huge. And it holds a little jar. Never used it. It just sits sort of beside my desk. There's a lot of them actually. That was must have been a trend at some point. Shoe inkwells. The things you discover when you play on eBay late at night. Mm-hmm. Okay, what was I doing? A into the other G. Can I do A into the other G? Oh, maybe. This may or may not work. Not a great day. It's an idea. Spacing is all kind of whacked out, but that could potentially work. Wait, what else? Can I do that any better? Huh. That's also kind of neat. Fun. This what's happening right now, what you guys are seeing is the first time I've done it, but this is exactly sort of what the challenge was meant to do. It's me to be like, that's kind of cool. I keep looking at it in my screen, like it's not right here in front of me. For some reason. I gotta stop looking in screens. Too many screens. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. H, standard H is pretty easy. Or we could cross the H with the exit stroke of the A. Nope, didn't do it big enough. Scratch that. Nice A though. That's still not really high enough, but that's the idea. If this oval was more shaped like it should be, and my hand didn't do ridiculous things, or even cutting through here would be about ideal, then that would be crossed. What's going on, Ashok? Welcome. We're just playing today. We're chilling. I'm having a... I think this might be my favorite live so far, for no real reason. I'm just in a really good mood today. I got delicious green tea and honey. I got the Lego bed pylon hanging out behind me, keeping me company. I got you, awesome people, keeping me company. My nib is working, my paper's working, my ink is working, which is great. YouTube is letting me know that my internet connection might not be the strongest this evening, so the video might be a little choppy. Hopefully it's not too bad for you guys. This one, that's a connection that I use a lot in my slow design work. Oh, you're looking at this one. That's an easy one. I've just been obsessed with this variation of the G lately. But this one, there's lots of different ways you can get into that. variation of the G. There's another variation of that G, this one, without a looped tail, that I really like, that I always forget to use. I've never actually written it, ever. Whoa, come on. That ruined it, but that's essentially the idea, which looks pretty with a cutoff stroke. Not that one, obviously. I always tell people not to focus on the bad parts, but that's a bad part, so I'm gonna focus on it. The AF is fun. That's a fun connection. I'm glad I thought of that one. And looking at that, I don't know why, looking at it on the screen gives me like a whole other perspective of what it looks like versus looking at it on the page. But that AF could also... Just thinking about this now. You could do something. This won't be as pretty. That's a crappy stem for the F. But you can also have the A be the crossbar for the F, potentially. Or, it's like a rabbit hole. This is what happens when I get excited. Because there's limitless possibilities. Bottom of the page is annoying to write on. How can I do this? You could also do something like that. Ideally, that A would come up and be shaped a little bit better. But it's an idea. You just woke up? Well, in that case, good morning. That's a neat one. I do like that. I think that would look really good with the with that stopping one that we did on this D. That could be a cool connection, potentially. That A has such long flowing. That A's got flow. I want to hash out that A little bit better, though. I want to try that. Put this aside. Get a new piece of paper here. New piece of paper, fresh. I want to see if I can better visualize that crossbar and not be at the bottom of the page, so I can be a little more comfortable with it. Huh. Trying to see if I can add a loop in there, if that's... Disclaimer, this might look terrible. It's so weird doing that backwards. That feels very strange. But the general idea is there. That combination's drunk. But with some practice, that could look kind of neat, actually. Yeah, you guys are getting... I'm glad you're enjoying it, Vincent. You guys are getting the uncensored live production of this ridiculous challenge. This is also what I do, though, when I'm creating designs and stuff on the fly for people. It's just normally not... I don't get as creative. When I'm doing things for people and people are watching, I have to be a little bit safer. I don't have quite as much of a buffer room to experiment, because some of my experiments make me look, case in point, this letter form right here, make me look really bad. So I have to play it safe sometimes when I'm doing stuff live. And then when I do stuff slow, I get really creative. But it's slow, it's designed. So my muscles don't get a chance to to play with it. But this is kind of fusing all those things together. Because the eventual goal, what this is building up to, is another live that I want to do way in the future, but is proper card writing. Doing these signatures. What we'll do is we'll go through this whole challenge, and before the challenge is done, we might move on to another challenge or another practice thing where I have some paper that I have grids printed on it, and the grid is the size of a business card. So I get used to making signatures confined to a very specific space. And then the final step from there is, this is a business card holder, is little, essentially business cards. I just cut these out of some really awesome cardstock that I have. I think I got in Hong Kong originally, but it's just good writing cardstock. And then the goal is to be able to do all of the combinations and beautiful signatures on these, on the fly, looking awesome, without messing up. So that can't be that hard, right? That's the goal. That's kind of where that's our trajectory. If it was a T first, would you connect it from the stem? That is, when I first thought of this challenge, my brain went, oh, what are you going to do when you get to T and F? And then another part of my brain went, yeah, we'll figure that out later. I didn't give it any physical trying. If I was going to connect the T's, let's just figure that out right now. The week of T's would obviously start with TA. So if I have a T, like, I really don't know where I would connect them. Obviously, so what it might end up being, actually, this is, if you look closely at this, you'll see what I just saw. I basically ended accidentally right where a connection could happen. So you could connect with the crossbar exactly like that, which is specific to the A anyways, probably the easiest way to get the A working. Something like that. Not a great A, but you get the idea. But then going into a stem, that's weird. I mean, you could technically connect a T with another T. Like, you can go into stem strokes that way. I'm not a huge fan of that, but it is a possibility. And that could also come from, actually, it doesn't have to be the crossbar. You could do that from your entrance oval, potentially. You could do something like this. And cross them both, or cross one and cross the other. Or they don't necessarily have to connect. I mean, everybody knows that in signature writing and whatnot, not all the letters actually connect. They just cross in sort of harmonious and beautiful ways. So if I'm being realistic, most of the T's and F's will be easier because there is a crossbar, so you have one extra line in there that you can bring in or go to another letter. But most of the time, realistically, I'm probably not going to physically connect a lot of the T's to other letters. Just because I don't want to be creating impractical connections that are not going to be of good use. If I can stumble upon some practical ones, then I'll definitely use them. Like an easy one that I feel like I've used before, I think, in a design signature, would be for the F, doing something like this. And then this could be, let me get more ink. Woo! So that's like things like that. I see that as a practical connection, something that that is feasible. I can do it. It doesn't take away from the letter form, but then it is connected. So for the F, that's what I would say. The F is easier because you get kind of one extra line to play with. If I were to do that with the T, it would also work because it wouldn't necessarily be seen as an F, but it could be seen as an F, which is why I probably wouldn't do it. What about some tips making these harmonious fake connections? So like the fake connections are essentially like what I did up here. I didn't connect this. It's just a standalone T and a standalone A, but we have lines crossing at 90 degrees. So they're close. They're connected enough that there's enough interweaving of them that they don't look like they're, like the letters shouldn't look like they're uncomfortable trying to connect with the other letters, like this A and F, for example. They need to look like the standard letter forms that just happen to connect or cross in a nice way. The crossing is much less exciting. In the challenge, I will most likely try to cross as much as I can, but if some of them just feel too weird, then I'm probably not going to do it. There is another thing that we haven't discussed. Yes, actually doing it backwards, which is another thing that I do in my slow writing, but I very rarely adopt it into my fast signature writing, just because I don't have the experience of doing it. But it's doing, like, I don't know if it specifically works in the instance of like the A and the T like we're doing, but it might. Wait a minute, I did that too far to the right, but wait a minute. Let's pretend that went there. And there's a stem stroke. That doesn't work. There's a lot of letters that can start with the second letter and go into the next letter. T and A, it's still a weird one. But I'll play with them all. They are options. Because many of the old signatures started with, well, my own signature, for example. I was explaining it earlier, but my own signature starts with the second letter. Whoa! Come on, ink. What are you doing? Starts with the second letter. Supposed to be a shade there. Whoops. There's supposed to be a shade right here. Instead of drawing the shade, I will tell you that there's supposed to be a shade there. Ooh, here's a fun note, actually. Fun tip for movement writing. So, you can visualize my M going down. I do a tiny little loop inside the G, and then I do my W. If I set up to do an M, like if my brain and my arm and everything is ready to write this M, and I start, I get a beautiful M, I get over here, and I get to this point, and because I'm using forearm movement for this, not whole arm, I'm at the end of my, I'm at the end of my possible movement going from the M down over, and also just, I'm not set up right for that shade, so I'll always end up, or more often than not, that shade will look awkward. It won't look right. But if I simply reset my arm and set up as if I'm going to do a shade right here, and then stretch my arm over to here, my nib and arm is prepped for that shade, and the M just ends up being, gosh, let me get some ink before I do it. So I'm setting up for the W shade. I can just come over here, keeping my weight on my arm, rolling it over to the M, so the M turns into an entry stroke for the W. That's a crummy shade, but what I'm saying hopefully makes sense. If you set yourself up for that shade, rather than setting yourself up for the hairline going into a shade that you're going to be uncomfortable getting into. I hope that all makes sense. It's something that I would get that shade, my nib would just never be in like the right perfect orientation for it, and I would always have an awkward W until I started setting up for the W and then doing the M going into where my neutral writing position is going to be perfect for that shade. Obviously that shade didn't come out perfect, but you understand what I'm saying, hopefully. Yeah. We're still going. Oh, YouTube says our internet is good again. That's good news. Where did I get to here? Did I only get to AF? Yeah. I don't know if I'll go all the way to Z today because I'm having fun playing. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Wait, no, we did G. What did we? H, I did A, I. So I is a tough one. I don't like the letter I all the time. Me and the letter I aren't always friends. But A to I is one of those instances where I might use the weird sharp connection at the bottom that I used for the A to the F, because I have an A and I have an I. There's no, like, these two lines almost connect nicely, but then that's a reverse I. So if you really wanted to connect them, if you were really good, you could do, like, my ideal connection for an A to an I, and what I would probably use in a slow signature would be something like this. My hairline kind of disappeared, but I hit the connection pretty much perfect. That's what I would consider like the ideal high risk move to be doing, just because the probability of hitting that perfect all the time for me isn't there. It's not bad. I'm there more times than not. But that is probably, that's the most beautiful, and that goes with that's how I would ideally love to connect, like the capital S. And honestly, going back to a G, same idea. If I wanted to use the standard stem G, if I have my A, and then I want to do my G like so. Please let this work. Ah, see, I didn't quite hit it, but that to me would look like, that looks awesome. Even with the mist, I'm not mad at it because it looks cool. Letters that end with a indirect oval. I call these trick strokes, where you do finish your lowercase letters, finish, and then the next capital letter finishes connecting that lowercase letter. It's rather risky. As you can see here, the chances of missing it are there. Maybe one day they won't be, but thanks, Fozzie. But can I go, just out of curiosity, a way I can do A to I if I wanted to do the A first and connect? The one connection I was talking about, I could potentially do this. I've never done this before. like that's kind of weird. Ideally this would come down straighter, a little bit longer. But it could potentially work. It has potential. I don't like it nearly as much as that a perfect connection, but it's an option. How else? I mean, there's always, you can think of clever ways of getting into everything. Yes, great risk, great reward. That's very true. That's how I felt when I did all the series of infinity names a while ago. I think that was more than a year ago now when I did those. Starting with the lowercase letters and having the exit flourish create the capital and then go finish into the first lowercase letter. There's a lot of mess ups. If you've seen, I have videos where I put in car crash sounds on my mess ups. But those, when you hit them, they just feel cool because at the end they just look dope. And there's a lot of examples of infinity signatures in the vintage work that we can only guess at where they actually started them because they look immaculate. The car crash, I had fun editing that one actually. It was, I take as much pleasure in my mistakes as I do, well, no, that's a lie. Not as much pleasure. I get a lot more pleasure out of when I hit them, but I have fun with my mistakes. Ideally, I won't have them one day, so I have to embrace them while I have them. As I laugh. I don't know if anybody ever gets that good. H-I-J. So the cool thing about J, unlike the I, you can start a J. A J looks better started with that compound curve. Like you can do an I that way as well. It just doesn't look as good in my opinion. You can space it out so it works. I know Michael Saul has some ones that are like that he does that end up looking really beautiful. It ends up being too much when I do them myself. I'm not a fan. But because of that possibility for the J, we have a little bit more. We have a few more options, I think. And that could be something as simple as just doing an A. Pretty sure my paper has oil on it right here because my ink is being problematic, but it's not of my own. Like something like that is kind of clever, and that follows the same rule that we did from A and D in the very beginning, where that could be, right now it's sort of a stop. It was supposed to be a tiny little loop. It could be a tiny loop, it could be a stop, or it could be a larger loop, or a super large loop, but you can get into the J that way. So the J is relatively flexible because of its ability to enter. Right? Something I never really thought of until I said it, but it's kind of a neat thing. Enjoy your mistakes, because one day you'll be good enough that you won't have them anymore, and you might miss them. Embrace them while they're here. They're a great way for a direction change. What is going on with my ink right now? Problematic. Swirl. So now that we've been here for a while, I want to make a little poll. I'm curious. I've had the video on full forearm mode, the entire video. Do you guys prefer just face cam? I can bring it up to face, or has it taken away from your viewing area too much, or is it okay? Do you guys prefer this to just the face cam out of curiosity? Oh yes, cherish the breaks. Also, Colby, if you didn't break pens now, when you get even better later on, you can't sit around with people, have a drink, and think, this one time I broke this pen, I used to be so bad, I used to break pens. Fun stories. You can't share those stories if you're just dope from the beginning. Being dope from the beginning's no fun. You don't have any stories to tell. You gotta be crummy. We all gotta be garbage at the beginning so that we have something to reminisce back on. Obviously. Is there a way you can flip your small pic? It looks like you're writing with... Does it? Oh, it totally does. Huh. I didn't even think of that because it was just my face before. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand by. We're going into technician mode. Wow, that's not what I wanted to do. Abort. That's not what I wanted to do at all. Ooh. My computer's being really choppy right now. Sorry if it's... I hope it's not lagging up the video. My computer's having some trouble. How's that? I now should look like I'm writing with my right hand. At Halloween, we'll do an upside down video. How's that, Ashok? But this, now I should look... Is that better? Okay, that looks to me a little bit better. Direct mic, indirect mic. Can it be smaller? Of course it can. Are you just trying to get rid of me, Ashok? Is that what you're saying? Is this your way of saying you don't like my face? I'm not gonna forget this, you know. Ashok doesn't like my face, so we're gonna see if we can make this a little smaller for him. Oh no, I don't want to do that. I want to make the whole thing a little smaller. How small? Like that small? Is that too small? Ah, so that's a good suggestion to move my camera to the other side, except when people watch on mobile, the chat scrolls over the screen on the left-hand side. I would like to have my face on the left-hand side, but it gets in the way. It's weird when the chat scrolls over my face, so it kind of needs to be on the right-hand side. Yeah, because for computer it makes no problem because the chat's not connected. But when I was doing tests before, I have some friends that watch on mobile, or if people are rewatching videos on mobile or whatnot, the chat is just scrolls up the left-hand side of the video, and that's not something I can edit, I don't think. So, unfortunately, I mean, I hope it doesn't look terrible, but it has to stay on the right. That's why I on purpose that's why I keep looking at my camera too. I try to keep the writing in like the lower right side of the screen so that it's and in the middle. I don't usually write over here specifically in case the chat is scrolling, just so I'm not writing under the chat if somebody happens to be doing it that way. Makes no sense if everybody's on computer, but I'm pretty sure inevitably some people are going to be on tablets and phones. Yeah. I'm trying to make everybody get the best viewing experience. Takes away the writing space. Sure, Ashok, sure. Just don't like my face, that's fine. Okay. I got you casted on. You got me casted on your TV screen. That's awesome. Giant life-size TV mic. Fun. Calculator watch. Heck yeah. Coolest watch in the whole world. I'm a fan. Actually, fun fact, this watch was a gift. It was gifted to me by Janet Takahashi's husband, Greg Minuskin. He gifted it to me at the Los Angeles Pen Show many years ago. Last time I saw him, he came up to me and asked me if I still wear it, and I wasn't wearing it that day, and I felt guilty, because I basically wear it every day. It's my favorite watch. I have other watches too. Ooh, part of my watch collection. Ooh. Has turned into my set for videos. Don't reflect the light, watches. There. Sure. I like geek cred. I'm all about geek cred. Another fun fact about this watch. It was, Greg didn't do it himself, but he had a watch restorer or mechanic, it's not what they're called, but a watch repairer, take it apart, update the internals, and it actually has an LED instead of the original light. These were notorious, sorry, my camera's locked on the writing focus, but these were notorious for having a terrible, tiny little light bulb. So it was replaced with a modern LED, so it's nice and bright. So it's a custom, one-of-a-kind calculator watch. I keep stopping and talking. Am I not writing? Hope that's okay with everybody. That's what I think. This tonight feels like what Late Night Live is supposed to be. Chill session, writing, fun, some good questions. Not too themed. I will do themed ones and more serious ones down the road, but this is kind of why this is kind of the way it's supposed to be. Checked on the phone. Yeah, that's for on the phone. I'm still on the right, but the chat is on the left. That's why I keep my face on the right. My face doesn't change. It's always on the right. But because the chat is on the left, I've tested putting my face on the left before, and it goes under the chat, and it's weird. I was told by people I was testing. I was told not to put my face on the left, because that's what I wanted originally. But people didn't want it that way. A show and tell session of my collectible. I have a lot of random collectibles. I have a pretty cool Chaplin collection. A lot of fun things. These are examples of things that pop in my brain and really don't work. They could potentially work, but the first time I try them, that just looks like a drunk, weird, elongated, oblong oval. These are the things I can't do when I'm doing signatures for people live. That didn't work. Alright, moving on. Yeah, if lots of people chat, then, I mean, if people are still continuously chatting, then it wouldn't fade, and it would just be text all the time. Oh, why is my downstroke so close to that stem? That was a beautiful stem, and I ruined it. Ruined it. Whoa, these two A's, I just want to say real quick, Those two stems, I am happy with those A shades. Oh, this song's got some punch to it. Maybe that's why I have so much energy tonight. Maybe it's the music. AK. I want to think of a more fun way of doing that. Let me try another silly idea. Is it a radio station? No, for my Instagram lives, I would play the radio. But for YouTube, I'm nervous. Instagram, my music's really quiet, and I haven't been hit for any copyright things. But for YouTube, I'm almost certain I would get dinged for copyright. So I've just created playlists of some of YouTube's royalty-free audio that they have in their own library. So I just created a lot of these songs I haven't heard. I just downloaded sort of genres of music and created little playlists for the lives. And in my broadcast software, I can just turn. This one's called pop. I can turn the pop off and turn jazz on or classical, or I can switch it to whichever playlist I've sort of put in there. Okay. How can I make this more exciting? I'll go whole arm for a sec, lifting the forearm off the table. This would be better for a W than a K. Let's pretend that I actually connected that hairline. A neat idea. None of these look very traditional. I don't believe. Would it work for a K as well? Not a huge fan of going into the K with that stroke. It's like going into B's and R's with a indirect oval stem. Not really a fan of doing it that way, but a neat idea nonetheless. If you imagine this combination with this bottom and this W, it would look a lot better. Synth pop. Hey Gretchen. What time is it? I don't even know. 10:40. Ooh. We're not even at the 2-hour mark yet. How's the volume of the music? Is it good? For me, it's playing really quiet, so it's super in the background. It doesn't feel very intense. 1:40 a.m. What are you still doing awake? Are you writing, or are you just chilling? Scrolling the gram? Scrolling the gram. That should be a shirt as well. Scrolling the gram. I'll add it to my shirt. List. This paper's done. Let's start a new one. New sheet of paper. Actually, is this the first sheet we did today? Is it dry? It's dry. Recycle, reuse. 1:40 p.m. for Fozzie, 1:40 a.m. for Gretchen, 10:40 for me. Okay. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. Okay, L's another one that can be Relatively standard, easy to go into. If I so desire. What is happening? Either the ink or my paper is oily. I think that looks better than using the small loop, personally. I wonder, when we get our Mataraz on, not necessarily what he would have done, but I'm just curious if this would work. Whoa. Needs some refining, but that's a neat idea. Notice how we squish the A nice and close, which is one of the cool things that Signature designs do. They get oftentimes the capital letters closer than they normally would be, and then how we get that nice threading of the lower oval, that little loop on the L, which is pretty great, I think. Dope. That's fun. AL. I'm gonna leave that one there. That's a cool. I gotta remember that one. Like I said, it's not perfectly formed, but I really like that idea. What's going on? Welcome. Hope you're having a good lunch break. All right. What do we got next? AM. I don't like connecting to the M. The M is always problematic. The M is one of those instances where I would, if people were watching and I was live and I had to be safe, I would opt for something like so. That's one of the easiest connections that I use for rapidly connecting the A and the M together. But, and that being said, the same thing we did with the D in the very beginning. This could be stop, a small shade, a small loop, a large loop. All of those same things can happen. Like you could make the A smaller potentially in an attempt to get things stylized. We could do a smaller A. A larger M. Like so. But that all follows the same principle of that one. Cool. We'll be here every week. I mean, unless something crazy happens to my schedule, but I don't foresee that happening in the future. Alright, N, exact same thing. What else do we got? The same type of thing I did with the L right here. In theory, this is one of the cool things about this experiment, that in theory could be also added to an M. For example, bad stem. Let me try that again. With a simpler entry to the M. Ideally right there would be nicer. Cutting through the stem. It's possible. I don't think it's a connection I would use very often. It's not as gorgeous as it could be. Potentially it could be nicer if this was brought down a little bit and this was not so cut in that direction, but a possibility. All right. So N is the same idea as N. Now we go into O. O is the same idea as just doing another capital A. So we can pretty easily do something that looks like a C. I have to be a little more careful. How to make that not look like a C? I think I have to shade the first instead of the second one. As we know, standard Spencerian ornamental penmanship O is unshaded then shaded. And I think in this instant, when I do that, that ends up looking like a C to me. My movement stopped and my brain was ready to do another A. That doesn't work. Well, I thought an A to an O would be relatively simple, but this is proving I just don't like the way it looks. That's better. That's the idea. I still feel like it could be, there's a better design we could do. Oh, but I think that's how I would connect it for the challenge. I think. A. Then we got P. P essentially can be done. AP. It's a fun, quick little OP. Ornamental OPAP. I'm losing my hairlines here today. This nib might be having some troubles. Or my hand is just too light today. Thank you. Good night, Gretchen. Sleep well. Tonight was a good one. I would definitely, doesn't mean there's a lot of blabbing, but I would definitely recommend rewatching today's live. I feel like we touched on some pretty good points and had a lot of fun in the process. I forgot I had tea. It is now cold, but it still tastes delicious. Ah. AP clip, so would I. Alright, officially out of tea. That's sad. I should just brew a large jug of green tea with honey. Put it in the fridge and drink cold tea all the time. So AP is pretty easy. You can also do the standard stem shade. But this is, I guess you call it my own variation of the P. I'm certain it exists somewhere. But it's based on the variation of the P that goes like so. I just added a little loop in the middle for fun. Q. Alright. Easy to do the Q that is written like a J or like a G. If you're a fan of that Q. Which is how I like doing it the best. It's pretty easy going into each other. do you do a... If you want to use the Q that looks like a number 2, I would probably use that trick stroke, or I would try to use that trick stroke method. Like so. Completely forgot to add a shade. Whoops. It should be shaded. I got caught up. Or... I'm gonna try something. Another potential cue you could use that I don't really use in real life all that often is a... Come on, hairline, work for me here. Into... What is happening? I think this page is done. We're going to imagine that that was a nice quick shade. And this finished like that into the exit stroke. And then from there, we're going to have a tail. You get an AQ. I'm going to get a new sheet of paper and try that with movement. Because it looks shaky. It looks like I drank too much coffee. And that's unacceptable. Alright. New sheet. Fingers crossed this sheet is better. And hopefully it's the paper and not my nib. And I have another new nib here somewhere. I don't feel like changing. Because I'm stubborn. Alright. AQ. One more shot. I like the idea, I just don't like the way it's coming out. Something like that. Looks like an A and a Q, kind of. It looks like an A and a flourish, I guess, to me. Potentially something I wouldn't use all the time. I would probably use that first variation that I did more often than not. R. Easy. We can use the same variation of the P that we did. Like so. That's pretty. A cute AQ with a tail. I mean, that tail would get a little funky in the way I did my tails there. Like the slow one structurally was probably a little bit better, but I really like that AR. It's got style. I mean, that can also be, we don't have to make that variation of the R. Can be simple as well. A standard simple R. S. S is a tough one. S is where I tried to do this with the G. I think it was the second variation of the G I did. But this is where like a trick stroke could work, in which case, and I don't do this unless I'm doing slow designing. I don't do this in writing because the chances of me hitting it are basically zero. Not zero, but something like that is the idea, which I actually did hit it, but just the shape of the S, it gets wonky to me. But I would do that. If I wanted to go into it normally, I could also do something like this. and go low enough that I can fit the exit stroke of the S inside my. I'm using forearm movement now. I would want to raise my forearm off the desk. I would do the A in using forearm, then I would raise off the desk and do the S in the whole arm, just so that I can do this. It's probably the extent of my ability forearm going that big, but I hit spots where my flow gets ruined. So I would want to transition after this stroke. I would lift, transition to whole arm, and write the S in whole arm. Well, made the connection, yes, but didn't make a very nice S. There's the one big issue, not an issue, but one of the biggest things I've noticed with me and my OP over the years. Many amazing things are possible. And I've done many amazing things. It sounded braggy, sorry. But those amazing things don't always happen. That's the scary part. The margin for error with rapid movement OP or Spencerian or anything, movement anything, the potential for catastrophic failures is exceptionally high. So sometimes it works perfect. A lot of times it works perfect. But a lot of times it completely crashes to the ground as well, which is the tough part. And that's where the difference between nowadays, where our practice is relatively sporadic, myself specifically, as you guys know, I practice when I feel like it, and I practice for fun, and I play. I do targeted, dedicated practice, but that is less often than I could be doing. Whereas back in the day, they were in school and whatnot, and they were teaching and training solidly all the time. So they have that repetitive perfection, as it were. That A is dope, also. I'm just realizing I'm a fan. Okay, QRS. Now we get into the T. We already discussed the T way 2 hours ago, pretty much. Alright, let's do a U. Oh, we haven't gone into any of those variations of shades yet, the U and the V. Huh. From an A, that's potentially problematic. How do I get into... I mean, my cop-out, if I was doing names live, I would cop out and do something like this. No, that was supposed to be a U, not a V. Whoops, but shade is essentially the same. I would do one of those, where I have the A, I come around and stop or loop. Jeez, why am I U's so terrible right now? I keep wanting to do V's. We'll try one more time. That's better. So that would be the go-to connection that I would probably use for the A. That, or, like we talked about with the D, a stop or going with the entry stroke bigger than the A. To get a nice loopy signature, I personally would believe that it would look probably a little nicer doing one like so. Like that. You get, it just sort of fills the space and you get a little bit more round going on. Not the best U, but you get the idea. Same for singers. They used to give us lessons daily. Now it's weekly, and yeah, you can definitely tell the difference. That is very true. It's just the way it's. I mean, it's different days, different times. So we just have to take what we got, and if we want to get better, push ourselves harder. Yeah, the bigger loop going into the U. I mean, I think the bigger loop works in a lot of scenarios. Like even if you take this top like AR that we did, I really like this, and I like having the loop smaller because of everything that's going on. Well, because that little shade we have at the top of the R, but I also think that an A with an R with a larger loop, straighten that out, would also look really, really beautiful, or could look beautiful. Potentially, I didn't cut in the exact same spot, but that, again, rounder. I was about to say opener, not a word. Round, more open, more. It looks flourishier. The cool thing about the difference is it's the exact same thing movement-wise. You're just increasing the size of that entry oval. As far as practicing, it's just small versus big. There's no real big difference there except expanding your range of motion through practicing those movement drills and whatnot. So as a general rule, I think I've come to the conclusion that I like the larger one better than the small one. Though that being said, I really like this one as well. I guess it's what you're going for in the signature. They are two different looking things. V, same idea. I would use the same thing I did on the U. Ooh, I like this song. I used this in a video, I think just this week, or in a video that I haven't posted yet. I can't remember if I posted it. Did I post it? Oh, this was the oiling video I posted yesterday. Sorry, that's why it's in my brain. Right. V. Same idea. One thing you can also do with an A to a V, similar to how something that I use the M into the W in my signature going through the G, you could have the tiny little loop be inside the A, but come out the top of the A shade. That doesn't make sense. Let me do it so you know what I'm talking about. Ah, that movement was so good. My hairlines got lost, so you can't see it. Like so. So you're kind of cutting right in there. That's probably, of all of the A and V's we did, I probably should have done that one too before. Essentially, the exit stroke of the A could have gone a little bit farther out, ideally, to like here. But I think that is a very, very beautiful connection. Keeps the A and the V nice and close. That's the one sort of tough part about these ones, is you need space for that compound curve to happen, or it ends up going a little bit too vertical too quick. Flourishier. Yeah, agreed. The big ones are flourishier. True. Okay. QRSTUVW. We already kind of did W, right? I mean, you can do the W the exact same thing I just talked about with the V. Like so. If you imagine it looking a little more like that one, what I was going for, going up a little quicker. But can we make that look any prettier? One other thing you can do, you can cut into that entry stroke, like so, that we use quite often. If you do the A, ooh, that's very round at the bottom. Super loopy. You can get all of that in there, and the letters still stay relatively close together. Do another one of those for good measure. So that's a good potential. You have the potential to have a spot where everything connects right in the middle of your two capitals, or also very beautiful, potentially more beautiful, I think, if I could get this little triangle right in the middle of your two letters, which is neat. Something to shoot for. And again, I sound like a broken record here, but same rules apply. You could bring that, if you wanted to make it opener, flourishier, do the A. I'm gonna go whole arm movement here just because I might run out of my range. Too much going on. How can I fix that? Let me try one more time. I like the idea, but the ending of the A is too big, I think. Let me try again. That's better. Lost my hairline in here, but... So that's a very open connection. This is just basically this exact same thing, just with way more space taken up. And the cap, I mean, I could have brought my W a little bit tighter in here, but it's nice having these triangles both fitting nice inside the W or inside this entry loop. Got good symmetry, or good, there's good potential there, I would say. X. Oh, I actually wrote I had a cool idea for the X earlier today, but I can't remember what it was. What did I do? I don't know where that paper is either. Doesn't matter. If I did something cool and can't remember, I have to convince myself that I didn't do something cool. A joke stolen from Mitch Hedberg. Come on, hairlines. Why you gotta be like that? Hairlines aren't being playful today. But that, I mean, the same way we connected the that last AV connection we did works really well. Lots of options. You can go into the X the same way you went into the W. Just trying to think of some more clever way of doing the A and the X. Thank you very much, James. You were kind of involved when I was not creating it, because I didn't create it, but when I got used to it, when I was adapting it into my new signature. Ideally, the little loop would be a little bit farther into the A. The idea is still there. What else? How else could I do this X? Huh. Let's try something. Actually, let me swirl my ink. We're getting a little watered down. Swirl, 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 swirl. Swirl, 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 swirl. For anybody who wasn't here when I talked about it a couple weeks ago, I keep little clear glass marbles in my ink jars, so I don't shake them. I can just swirl them and it just swirls the little marble along the bottom of the jar to help mix my ink nicer than shaking. Okay, what do I want to try here? I forgot what I was going to try. What was it? Shoot. Huh. Getting a new piece of paper because this might not work at all. I've said that a lot of times tonight though. What do we got? Let's do pole arm. No, forearm. The idea is there. The idea is there. It just didn't happen. Oh, I bring my A too close there. Okay, one more try. I like where this is headed. It's not working yet, but I like what we're shooting for. Need to bring that one a little higher into A. Come on, Mike. Stop making that so awkward. Do what's in your brain. That's the idea of what I'm thinking that's kind of neat. I don't love it yet, but it's kind of neat. Did I get it better? That's better. Yeah. So that's the idea of what I'm going for. Neat little A2X. Stroke. And because the X doesn't need an ending stroke like a C to look like a X, my brain said, oh, you could do that with a C as well, but I don't think it would work. Because the C kind of needs that exit stroke so it has a finish. I think. Well, something to play with. The idea is there. Let's go Y. The same as the V or the U we did, I would say. Beautiful. That's just a beautiful, clean connection. I like that one. And Z. I'm gonna try something. Might not work, but we're getting playful. I like this. This is the whole point of why I was doing this challenge in the first place, because already I've done so many connections that I've never even thought of before. Some of them work, many of them don't, but it just forces creativity, which is awesome. Okay, how am I gonna do this? Yeah, this might not be good at all. Okay, we got an A. And in theory, if I play my cards right, we got a Q. Is it Q? A Z. Could that be cool? If that looked like super beautifully connected, do you think? I started the A a little more vertical instead of hooking it over up so quick. If it was coming down instead. There's potential there. I really like that. I think if I had the A to the Z, I would probably do the variation of the A. Let me try here. One more time. See, I'm in the habit. My A's are they start very flat, traveling to the left. So the problem with that is then I don't have a lot of room to go into my Z. So I need to, for this specific connection, I think I have to get in the habit of doing an A starting more on that downstroke. Instead of having a hairline into it, have it start right at the transition into the shade. Maybe. No. The idea though. That's the angle I need. Yeah, like that. Okay. Then I would do tiny little shade. My exit stroke turned out in not very nice, but now in theory there's something to that. Would take some ironing out and some figuring out to get that transition beautiful, but there is something there. Oh yeah, true. The issue I'm having, you can see here, my travel coming into the Y is this way. I'm traveling up and over, and my travel coming into the A is this way. So I'm not getting that harmonious, beautiful connection in there. So it's just getting used to connecting those two. Oh, I want to hit this. And keeping the shades kind of have to be, if you do it right, you get a beautiful balance of two shades on either side of one oval, which I guess could be seen as a no-no, but I really feel like if it's done right, it could look really cool. Okay. Oh, I forgot to add a shade in there. Okay, so instead of my standard, I gotta go into this weird shaped oval. I had the right path, I just missed the hairline. That's the idea. Neat. Something to work on. Fun. And that's the whole A through Z. We made it. But that's the goal, basically, every week. What you guys witnessed live tonight, I won't film all the time because it's a lot of repetition and a lot of me talking to myself, trying things. But essentially, this is a process that I want to put myself in basically every week, to try to go through the alphabet and then do them. The end goal is to have one sheet of paper, one attempt each, A, B, A, C, A, D, all the way through every single week. And at the end, good or not, in my scrapbook, you can flip through 26 full alphabets, starting with the single letter. And I do, obviously did some bad ones in here, but I feel more comfortable. I mean, I just wrote, how many A's did I write today? This is more exciting for me than sitting and doing A over and over and over and over again. Luckily, with the shade on the capital A, you can stop right here, so I can separate in my brain doing the first shade versus doing the weird connection. There can be two separate forms of practice. So that first shade, I can be trying to grind that in a little bit cleaner so that I can always get a cleaner, nicer A. But that's the idea, and that was a lot of fun. I think, what time is it? It's almost 11:30. I think, ladies and gentlemen, the time has come to maybe end tonight's late night live. You all know I could go for another hour, but I don't think we gotta do that today. I think I had a really good time, and this was a lot of fun. So I'm gonna end it here. If anybody has any last minute questions or things they want me to go over, say them now. But there's a delay, so I probably won't get the questions until I end it anyways. We're gonna end there. Like I said in the beginning, I'm not ignoring all the questions that were asked on Instagram. I am planning to touch on those. I just don't know that I'm gonna do the lives as specific like Q&A sessions. I like when the questions kind of come up organically, or if I have time to prepare how I want to address certain questions and whatnot. Yeah, thank you very much for hanging out, everybody. If you were here watching the live, awesome. If you're watching this afterwards, awesome. Thanks for watching. Do me a favor. I gotta do the YouTube person thing. Do me a favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe. Hit the bell icon so that you get the notifications when I go live and when I post new videos and stuff. Because I do want to put some actual made YouTube videos up here again eventually. Wait, what are we... Monica... I'm just done lunch. Sorry, Monica. Yeah, we did 2.5 hours, I think, is a good place to stop. Yeah, thank you very much for hanging out, you guys. I'll see you on Instagram, and have a great rest of your week. We're going to end the live now.